The speakers for our round table now are Professor Wesley Cantwell, Professor of Aerospace Engineering and the Director of the Aerospace Research and Innovation Center at Khalifa University in United Arab Emirates, and Dr. Nikhil Verghese, Corporate Fellow in SABIC Corporate Technology and Innovation Organization. So they will initiate this roundtable around the future of composite material in the kingdom, and we enjoy some discussion between them and the other panelist members. So the floor is yours now, Professor Wesley and Dr. Nikhil.
Thank you very much. I shall hand over to Nikhil to start things off. Go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Cantwell, and good day to everyone. I'm so used to all these global meetings. Instead of saying good morning, good afternoon, I'll simply say good day to all of you. I think it was a fun afternoon session. Lot of very distinguished lectures were given, and why not take advantage of all our distinguished panel members to continue this conversation, I would say. So thanks to my fellow moderator, Professor Cantwell. I think we have tried to put together our thoughts as to how to direct this conversation for the next 45 minutes. And without further ado, let me go to the next slide. But before I do so, I want to particularly thank a few people. I think Professor Gilles Lubiniou, who I've had a relationship with for over now 7 years, I would say, for long-standing collaboration, and obviously his leadership, as mentioned by both Professor Lawrence Karen and Professor Najar Ashri. Certainly bringing SASCOM to life is not a small task. I think you join all the other groups around the world, European Association for Composite Materials, American Composite Materials Society, and many other societies like this. So welcome to SASCOM. I think on the world stage of composite materials, it will be extremely delightful to see the participation. So congratulations also to KAUST University for giving us this chance. With regards to the panel members, I don't think anybody needs any more introduction. You all have been introduced and you all gave some beautiful lectures. So without further ado on that introduction, I would simply say our roadmap for the next 40 minutes. It's the first of two panel discussions, as Professor Gilles Lubiniou mentioned. The second one will be tomorrow. It's a little bit of an experiment to do these panel discussions virtually. It would be much nicer if we are in the same room, but nonetheless, we'll make the best out of this circumstance. What Professor Cantwell and I thought we'd do is actually pose four fundamental questions on this topic on what could be the future of composite materials as we look at Saudi Arabia. Before we go there, maybe just as a preamble, a little bit of an introduction, as a thesis statement, if you wish. I think it's become pretty clear through the morning or the afternoon discussions that if you look at KSA's Vision 2030 about diversifying the economy, developing new sectors, and improving quality of life, it is pretty clear that the kingdom is poised for growth. And growth in some significant areas like utilities and renewables, aerospace and defense, and last but not least, automotive. Furthermore, you have accelerators like giga projects like NEOM. Everybody has read about NEOM in the literature. More to come, I would say, in these areas of giga projects. These will surely enable lightweighting solutions to really be actually deployed, not just talked about theoretically, but deployed in the field. And therefore, plastics and composites thereof would have huge applications in the years to come. And the market segments are clearly industrial and transportation, and the sub-segments are in this particular slide. So we'll focus on these, and we'll focus on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But what we want to take advantage today is all of your combined experience, namely the panelists. And I'll go back to that. All of you panelists represent either active programs in the kingdom or represent heads of other similar institutes. Professor Enrique Garcia and many others like Suresh is on the call from CCMS in Delaware. Professor Wisdom is there. Many other people are there with all this experience of having been there, done that. And I'm sure there are a lot of things we've learned over that journey. We'd like to really use those best practices as we look to the future of the kingdom, I would say. This is the goal. So without further ado, let me go into the actual questions. We have 4 questions, like I said. The questions are basically aligned on 4 themes. We'll start with the market question. We'll then go into the actual product that will emerge from this. The people component is absolutely vital. If you look at any deployment of composites to be a success, the people component is important. And then a sort of a catch-all would be other barriers that you all can imagine given your combined experience. So this will be the flow. We'll keep about 8 to 10 minutes for each question. In no particular order, we have chosen a few of you to target these questions so that we can keep to the time and be disciplined about the total time. But it's not to say that it should be constrained to only those people. All panelists are welcome to chime in. And at some point, Dr. Hadi will also open the floor to other people to ask the questions. So this is the format that we'll try to follow. So with that, I'd start with the very first question. And this question is perhaps pointed mostly to Dr. Jamil and Dr. Munir to begin the conversation. And it's around the market. And if you look ahead in the years to come, I mean, I think you've posed the question well, where the kingdom is poised today and where the kingdom is going forward in terms of drivers, both for the local content as well as the market in general. But if you look ahead, what are the key growth areas that you see for composite materials in the kingdom? And maybe I'll extend it to even the surrounding GCC nations, not just the kingdom. I would say GCC overall and the region overall. And if you could please also spend a little bit of time explaining what might be the drivers for these growth segments that you see in the future. So in no particular order, Dr. Jamil, Dr. Munir, the floor is yours.
Okay. Would you like to start, Dr. Munir? I will just start and then turn it to you.
Sure, if you like me, Dr. Jamil, I'll be more than happy to start it. As you can see, the market in general in the kingdom is growing rapidly. If you look into the past 4 to 5 years, with this new project arising, as you mentioned, with the Giga project, what we call here in Saudi Arabia, such as NEOM, Amala, Red Sea. It's a really huge project, and the demands and the growth are together. So just to give exact example within my industry, which is the aerospace industry, we are the 3rd or the 4th country in the world spending in defense. Now we have Vision 2030, which mandate all this spending, all this company that are dealing with the local companies, they must localize. What I mean by localize, it comes to time of manufacturing, it comes time of product, materials, and on and on and on. When it comes to composite, it's fairly new to the kingdom. It has been, interestingly, coming in not too long ago. So this new technology, this new materials coming in the Saudi market requires a lot of preparation. And I really think look into the R&D and research institution and the educational institutions to start, because the educational and institutional, they are the birth of a lot of the technology. Coming from the industry and CEO of a company owned by PIF, it's really tough for us to start maneuver or change our business model quickly. We look at R&Ds, and I can mention like KAUST, like TABIC, like Aramco. They have great and huge R&D centers where they can capitalize on the demand for composite material. Now, as a company or as in the country, we have products. The products are from all different varieties. So we have opportunities, and those opportunities are when we bring not just manufacture a product that's been in the market for the past 30 and 40 years. Let's bring a product in the country and let's utilize it. And for example, if the parts are made out of the metallic, we can how can we transfer it into composite material? What's the potential to do that? So this is kind of what I think of looking to this kind of business coming into the country and establishing manufacturing capabilities and local content and know-how and transferring technology. We're looking into not just transferring technology, let's transfer advanced technology, not just building a product that's been built for the past few 5 or 10 years. Let's make it better. Composite is a great material. Being expert in not manufacturing it, into designing it, it brings a lot to the market. It brings a lot to this project, such as wind energy, cars, aerospace. So I think it's not just to the kingdom, to the GCC country, to around the region. So these are really the market drivers for this growth, for the growth of material and manufacturing of composite. You have to have a driver, and these are the drivers. You have the giga projects, you have the Vision 2030 mandating you to make parts and manufacture parts here, and that will rise the industry, rise the existence of factories such as composite materials, such as composite factory structure. So I think it's just a matter of time. You will see this growth rapidly in the kingdom with the direction that we're going towards, and it's going to be very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jamil.
Okay. Do you hear me now? Okay. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Munir. Just to add, the expectation there will be a growth, high growth in this market, high demand in this market. And actually, I'll just share with you some figures. We look to it in Saudi Aramco and value the growth opportunity for petrochemicals. The growth opportunity is about 2.7 all the way to 2040. That tells you that which is the feedstock for non-metallic and composite material, and it would continue to grow by high percentage, and the market share in the crude demand is almost 6, and it will grow to 19. That tells you there is a market for non-metallic and composite. We did a study in Aramco, and we looked to high expected demand for composite material and non-metallic. We found out there will be a growth. There will be a growth in the demand in different sectors. One sector that the 5 sectors that I mentioned in my speech today, starting with building and construction, it would represent. It's a huge market. And really, we expect a major transformation. I will tell you what we did in that area. We found out using non-metallic or FRB rebars rather than the conventional. We used it in one project, which is Jazan channel, and we have used 10 million linear meter. That opportunity made a demand for new manufacturers to build a manufacturer and localize it in the kingdom. They went and studied the market, and they found out it's very promising market, and there is a lot to add to this one. But this is just one example in building and construction. We have built the first bridge using FRB rebar, and that was in close to a cake area, an area it's called for King Salman Park, and we expect there will be a lot of demand. Imagine the application of non-metallic in building and construction, especially there is a lot of R&D work done in that area. So it would make it cheaper, and demand would grow. The other sector that I mentioned today, number 2, is the automotive industry, and there is a lot of effort in the kingdom to localize this market, and there will be a lot of demand for non-metallic parts, which is part of the cars. We are talking about 200 kilometers per car. and the whole the worldwide demand or the worldwide production is about 100 million cars per year. Imagine, it would be huge if we could come and do a lot. I know there are a lot of research in that one, carbon fiber. If that research and expectation by 2025, 24, the cost of carbon fiber would be very competitive. And imagine the growth that would create, not only for the cars, even for normal car, even for electric car.
Sorry, Dr. Jamil, your signal
it require a tank from carbon fiber because it would stand. So there would be another. You hear me now? You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I talk about two, automotive, and I told you some example of the demand, building and construction, oil and gas market, and I share with you some example. In only 4 or 5 years, we use 9,000 kilometers of non-metallic. It's really it's almost, I will not say linear, it's faster than linear, the growth in that market. Expectation is higher because we are expanding the envelope, pressure, temperature, and others. So this is another one. Plus the subsurface also, which is very challenging. We start seeing a penetration in that area. 600 wells were used non-metallic and the composite material. So I tell you, there is a huge market for this one. The other one is packaging. We've seen there would be more demand rather than using wood or other drums, and also non-metallic is penetrating in the area. Renewable, and the demand on the renewable and clean energy is another one that will create that demand. By the way, we are not pushing for non-metallic, or even the industry is, the academia is not pushing for non-metallic and composite material just for the sake of pushing for. No, it provides competitive and cost-effective solution. As I mentioned today, prevent corrosion, life cycle cost is by far cheaper. Environmentally, even we did a study, look to the environmental impact of producing the life cycle of producing non-metallic versus its competitors or other material. It's 20 to 40% less carbon footprint. So there are other benefits out of the composite and non-metallic. That's why we believe there will be a huge market for non-metallic. We've seen it when we ask people to go and invest. And I mentioned today, a lot of companies already established in the kingdom. Interest was 90. And we generated many companies already up and running now. And we as a company, as Saudi Aramco, we even JV with some of them. And we have a company with Baker Hughes in non-metallic area. So it's very promising. This is what I want to conclude with in this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil. I think with that, given
Nikhil, can I add to this, to the two gentlemen answers quickly? Actually, the demand is always here in the kingdom, and there is a need. What happened that the 2030 vision brought with it a significant number of initiatives. These initiatives, many of them require composite materials. The composite materials and the demand can be brought through suppliers. That is fact, you know. But the secret here about the 2030 vision is we want to localize industry in the kingdom. We want to transfer the technology to the kingdom. We want to, grow the economy, and we want to create jobs. For example, the automotive industry, the target is to create 55,000 jobs in 10 years. This is huge. And the automotive is not the largest, quantity that we'll be using from composite. I see personally the largest is in the wind energy, and as Dr. Jamil mentioned, in the non-metallic applications, whether it is offshore or onshore, whatever it is. But this is the whole thing about the, the composite demands in KSA. It's about how much, this vision, how many initiatives are brought and the use of it. So it's really great opportunity for investors to come here and spend money, because we can later talk about the drivers and how these are can be helped.
Thank you, Dr. Kuberi. Thank you.
Great.
Wesley, over to you.
Thank you. And yeah, I'd like to start by thanking Gilles and the team there in KAUST for an excellent meeting. I had hoped to go there last year, and I have the visa in my passport, but it's been unused. But this is a great opportunity to make up for that. And so I hope there'll be equal engagement for the second question, which relates to the topic of product. And the question goes somewhat like this: attracting and locally building the value chain, and this could be fiber raw material suppliers to OEMs. This is an important ingredient towards building success. Do you agree? And if so, how do you see this happening? So we thought this question in the first instance would be perhaps most suited to Dr. Fahad and Dr. Munir again. So if either of you would like to start.
I would like to have Dr. Fahad to start, please. I would like.
Okay, Dr. Munir, thank you. Yeah, this is a good question. I mean, the value chain for the let's take example as carbon fiber or composite in general. The value chain is a key, element for success. And if we do not have the upstream and downstream together, there will be extra cost actually for the investors and suppliers. Yes, it is important. Attracting and building locally this value chain is a key success factor for our industry, and it's a major enabler for the 2030 vision. The government here, they actually put some attractive, programs and attractive measures for those investors. For example, the value box to enhance the value proposition and for them is a big addition here. We do have in the kingdom 8 box, distributed around the kingdom. We also have very sophisticated 4 boats that can handle containers, large containers, and on the coast in the coastal areas. But when it comes to the value box, these are world-class infrastructure. It's one-stop shop, and it is dedicated infrastructure and shared facilities and services, utilities always available there. The zone-specific incentives targeting, adding or giving additional advantages for anchor investors and pioneers. The supporting enablers by giving some loans. Actually, I know that our PIF they give loans up to 75%. I don't know whether it's still the same percentage but it is there with very generous program to help them industry for equipment financing. A priority is given to locally produced products through the local content program, as we mentioned. And also most important is the access to raw materials and other inputs. For example, here in SABIC we do have a program, we call it NUSANID, which is going to be a good value proposition for investors. I believe also Aramco have the program called Activa. But when it comes to SABIC, I can highlight this because I'm very well aware of it. guarantee the supply of raw materials that we are producing in SABIC, also providing financial rebates on our raw materials, supporting and securing access to finance through equity, providing access to proprietary technologies and network of skilled professionals within SABIC or even its affiliate, provide access to training, workforce capability, and facilitating dialogue with regulators and with authority here, provide expertise in engineering and helping in project management, including technical reviews, pre-visibilities, provide shared services support in finance, IT, legal, recruitment, other training. So this is an standard program provided by SABIC, in addition to what the government is giving, of incentives, also Aramco and others, other big companies here. So all this is put available for investor to come to make this value change you mentioned. Yes, it is important. It is very crucial to build our industry here and to supply our needs in the next 10 years. Actually, we are not now talking about 10 years alone. The Crown Prince mentioned a week or 10 days ago, we are now starting thinking about 2040, which is an extension of 2030. This is from my side.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a minute left. Would you like to add anything, Dr. Munir?
Yes, absolutely. So to add to Dr. Fahad, for supply chain, value chain is 4 sections: raw material, parts, sub-assembly, and assembly. So where do we need to fit in locally to start growing? It's very important to look at this value chain as where we're going to start: the raw material, or parts, sub-assembly, and assembly. So we really fit. We're going to start somewhere in the kingdom and follow that value chain. I see ourselves in the raw material and the parts section of the value chain, and then we're going to move into sub-assembly and assembly. So it's I do agree that it's an important ingredient to build in order to be successful to build that. So I see it happening by again related to these projects and the high demand for such material in the country.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I have the privilege of asking the third question as well. And this relates to sort of human capital, to people. So SASCOM has been established as a major first step, a great initiative. What in your mind is still needed to build know-how and experience in the field of composites in the kingdom? For example, do you see establishing the first industry university user facility, strong composites programs, etc., as being important to build confidence? And we thought that Dr. Enrique and Dr. Recep would perhaps be most suited to give an initial response to this. So would either of you like to take a stab at that one?
Sure. Shall I take it the first step?
Please.
I do believe that the establishment of SASCOM is a valuable step, and I hope that it will help connecting the dots between the local industry players with the academic world. That is something that I was kind of missing to a certain extent. And having the cutting-edge scientific capabilities is important, of course, for developing new innovative sectors, but it may not be sufficient alone, I would say, as the science alone. And I think that it will be more powerful if we will have more application of the science we produce locally in KSA as well. So if I will give as an example, the Silicon Valley in the US, I think it's a nice example of this applied science approach. The initiatives like the industry university user facility and strong composites programs will definitely help realizing this in KSA, and I think they are kind of bringing parts of this Silicon Valley concept to life. And I I do believe that availability of KAUST like high-tech institutions in KSA or in the GCC area are forming a very important fundament and an ecology for maybe building a tall, strong skyscraper building. On the other hand, we have the industry that there are certain technologies in KSA, for example, forming, let's say, the roofs and the walls of this tall building. But what still may be strengthened is the pillars, which is connecting the fundament, the different levels of the building and the walls. And yeah, I think that it is with the scientific institutions connecting the industry. That's something that I would bring to front as point that will still need some build up of knowledge.
Thank you very much.
I completely agree with you, Josep. I think that it is really important to actually have the holistic approach. So everyone needs to be involved, from academics doing the right fundamental research that is applicable to the needs of the kingdom, to RTOs that can actually provide the next step up in the technology readiness levels, to industry. All need to be involved in the dialogue, I think. And by doing that dialogue, and also obviously including the government. So if you include everyone in the room, you will be able to trace a really clear plan on how to deliver for the challenges that the kingdom is willing to tackle through composites. And I think that will also bring a clear understanding of what skills and what capabilities are needed and what needs to be developed. I think one of the other aspects that is probably interesting would be to just, and I think it's already been done, to be honest, it's identifying the right partners internationally and possibly establishing collaboration programs. So it's, and again, this is at all levels. So it could be interchange of students or PhD students or investigators at the academic level, certainly RTO to RTO, so research center like ourselves, for example, with some of the new centers that are being created in Saudi. And also, again, the involvement of the industry. So having well-funded programs that entice not only the researchers, but also the companies to actually come to the kingdom to do research. I think it's a really important aspect of identifying the right skills and then developing the right amount of people that will be needed to deliver on those.
Great. Thank you very much, Enrique, and also Risa. I'm going to hand back to Nikhil now for a...
Wesley, I think there's a question. Go ahead, James.
Something about the people and the question about the workforce.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, clearly what we want to do here is to make sure that we are going to train not only the next generation of researchers, but also technicians, engineers, and the whole chain of people who are needed here to fuel the composite economy. And if I look at the way it's working, I think flagship projects really have a lot to play here. That means defining a very low number of products, of complex products and complex technology, so that can go in aeronautics or it can go in automotive industry, but starting from flagship project, and on this, starting to identify what are the technologies that are well known, and the point is only to relocalization of the industry and more vocational training. What is the part that is coming to R&D and the development of an R&D workforce and everything. But I think starting from technical project and flagship is probably the way to go. And this is going to help identify what is more vocational, what is more R&D, what is available in the kingdom already, and what are the things that need to be developed. I think I will really start from this. I think I would like to see some industrial partners defining really one or two big flagship projects, and then trying to see how do we make this product in Saudi Arabia based on Saudi Arabian skills and workforce. I think that would be a good way to start.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Gilles. I think that was where I was also heading, but Dr. Munir, you want to say something?
Yeah, yes, sorry, I have to just allow me a few minutes to add to this. It's very important. the education institution like KAUST and educational institution, they can start with labs testing like allowables. Now, composite material, there's so many materials coming up. There's so many changes. In aerospace industry, we're stuck to a very, very limited material to utilize because of the allowables. We cannot go and run allowables to calculate our factor of safety. So usually, I'm just bringing that model from the US in Wichita. They have the universities having all the labs, and they are hand in hand with the industry to develop allowables for composite materials. When you have the T300, T500, 700, all this grade of material composite, yes, we can use them. But as a design engineer, I need allowables. I need to calculate the factor of safety, and it's very expensive to develop allowables for materials. For example, Boeing, they only have maybe maximum two allowables to calculate, so we can design our parts using only certain materials. We cannot go outside the box. So for SASCOM to look into develop labs in KAUST to do the testing of materials, to develop your own allowables, hand in hand with SABIC, Aramco, the industry, to support you in that. And then you can provide these numbers so they can do the design and develop the product. I don't know. Am I making sense?
I fully agree with this. I mean, I think there is a need in Saudi Arabia to have a national testing center somewhere that can provide certification and standards. I mean, we discussed about this for years, and I think this is something that should happen somewhere in Riyadh or in Jeddah, but something where SABIC, Aramco, and there are plenty of companies who are looking for standard testing in composites, and there is a need for this. I mean, we all agree that there is a need. I can only agree with this. It's
Yep.
I think I just wanted to interject a little bit, given the time constraint that we have, but this is a very important lead that we're going into, because I think that workforce training is more than just R&D or scientific content. I think the entire installation base, the technician base, etc., has to come up. Otherwise, it will again become a major problem down the road in terms of really deploying these structures. So I'm glad, thanks Gilles for bringing it up, and Dr. Munir for your comments, because I think this is something we'll have to keep in mind. I've thrown the next question on the screen. And again, I think this is one that we will sort of have the closeout session on. This is the last question. It's really to the majority of all of you on the panel to really chime in, because it's really a catch-all sentence. I think as we look towards other barriers to success, I mean, obviously, if I look at the NCC, if I look at the CCMS, if I look at CETIM, I look at many other institutes, I'm sure if the question was asked, what would you do different? What would you focus on differently now that you've invested all this money? There might be a variety of answers that will come up. But one thing that we didn't talk about in the morning that I want to highlight is the installation base. Dealing with composites is not dealing with metals, for example. So as we design that perfect composite for hydrogen storage or pipelines or building and construction or aerospace, you need to have a large number of people who are trained and skilled to install these composites in the field without creating premature failure or damage when they install these things. And those things resonate in my mind because, at least if I look at the United States, many examples of failures occurred there where people were not trained enough how to handle composites and redeploy. So let me ask a question. What else will limit the advancement of composites in the kingdom? Things of the nature like I explained, but much more. And I just throw the floor open to any comments there that we can take. You know, what all should we be watching out for?
Okay, if you allow me, I will agree with you. This is very important, the skills and others. But I would like to say, rather than looking to it as a barrier, we look to it as enablers. What are the enablers that we will use to convert these challenges into opportunity that would help us to move forward? For us, when we say here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, localization is very critical and very important. My colleague, Dr. Fahad from SABIC, mentioned their SAND program. In Aramco, we have ICTIVA program that encourage localization. We succeeded for non-metallic and composite material to localize 15 manufacturers. We receive 90 interest from different manufacturers to localize that we are evaluating right now. This is number one. Number two is the regulation, the standards, the procedures, the guidelines. This is very important and very critical to come up with the right procedure, right guideline. Things that the engineers and scientists have developed should be documented and become a procedures, guidelines, standards, and so on and so forth. We in Aramco have seen that when we introduce the standards and the procedure, help us to move big time. Number three is R&D business. R&D, expanding the envelope, several R&D activities. We've seen great presentations today. And I want to give from this, now I would like, in this event, I would like to thank KAUST, because I would give them a lot of credit. They came up with even a full department for material science that put a lot of emphasis on composite and metallic, other alternative materials and others. So R&D work is very critical and very important enabling element that would help us to expand the envelope and create more application, more cost effective, and so on and so forth. Number four, and it's somehow related to the previous one, is improve the properties of the composite, make it more economical cost, reduce the cost, improve the manufacturing process also. This is another enabler that we should look to. Number five, and I think most of you talked about it and is very critical, is the skilled people, the development of people, and it's very critical and very important. Last but not least is the tapping on the benefit of non-metallic, especially the environmental impact of the composite and non-metallic compared to conventional. This should help us to also to push further and further. So further and further. So these are enablers that we should push for. I don't want to take much of the time because I'm sure my colleagues would add more points.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
Yeah, Dr. Nikhil. I agree with what we said. Being in this field for some time in KSA and counterpart with partnering with colleagues from KAUST, from KAUST, from different organizations, including also Aramco. I think the main challenge that we are facing in the kingdom is not the money, it's not the infrastructure that we have, it's not the incentives, it's the skill set. It's our universities, with exception to KAUST, are not yet up to the level to promote the material science, and the composite science enough that matching the ambition that we have in KSA. So if we do have this ambition, but unfortunately our universities, they need to work hard. It's true we do have so many people studying abroad, but I'm sure not all of them in this field, in the composite materials. It's I assume very minimum. What we are lacking, probably we do have some skills not known to us, but unfortunately we do not have the database that telling us who is working, in what field they are working. I'm hoping that this society that being created and announced today will be gathering a database for all knowledgeable people in the kingdom and their fields and their experience, and then from there it will be a good start.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, just one point.
Maybe
we are tight in time.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, we are now tight in time. So yeah, we have one question in the Q&A. It's come from Adrian. He's asking about how about other fiber reinforced materials such as basalt? And the second question also, it's connected to this one. It's about natural fibers as well. So if we can hear something about basalt or the natural fibers, how we can, what's the opportunity for this material in composite material and application in Saudi Arabia?
Okay, I would like to add just something about the barrier to success. Just a few minutes in that. I think it's education and experience. We need to build on education and experience. We are on this SASCO, the society. It's a great start. I think it's a foot in stone to start this education and overcoming these challenges or the barriers. But I think we have that. We can overcome this barrier by education experience. Education by itself is good. You can read something in the book and you come out and it's completely different. So we really need the experience also. We need to have some experts to come and support us in understanding this composite material and how you design it. Designing the composite material is not like metallic. When we did the 787, we did black metal. I must say, we don't want to do a black metal. If you know what I mean. We need composite. It's a different beast of material for designing it, analyzing it, and manufacturing it. So this is we need to overcome how to design it, how to deal with this kind of material.
Yeah.
For the question that Dr. Hadi asked, we can open up the floor. What about the role of basalt and other fibers like biofibers and so on and so forth? Any comments, thoughts from anybody on the panel?
Cannot talk about
my specialties. I don't know. I can
talk about the possible applications in the kingdom, but we certainly are very actively working on both basalt and as a possible substitute to glass in some applications, including wind. And certainly, I mean, natural fibers, we are taking a look at them. They have inherently good properties in some cases. Mechanical properties are just really poor, and quite honestly, they will never be able to compete with carbon unless something really massive happens. The quality also is a problem. There's such a wide variety. I mean, it's not like carbon or glass where you have a really tight control of what you're getting. The spread is massive, so they are difficult to combination with some of the more traditional fibers. I mean, we're getting really interesting properties like damping, vibration, damping, and stuff like that.
So hybridizing the systems may be a little bit more effective.
Yeah, maybe Nikhil, I can comment on the natural fibers, not the basalt. This country doesn't have forest, and we don't have trees here enough to make natural fibers. But we do have the palm tree, and we are one of the largest, making textile. I think it is a great opportunity, and it is important from natural resources. The leaves and the byproducts of palm tree is a good candidate to be raw material, and I think having more than 30 million palm tree here is an opportunity. They always, they don't know what to do with the after year after year with the harvest, not the date itself, the other, leaves and others. So I think in terms of natural, if it is as a raw material to be used in composite materials for industry, I don't think this will be working here because of the mechanical properties and even it's in industry, it's not used rayon, for example, or the other, the other natural, fibers are not used in carbon fibers in a big scale, larger scale. But if it is used for textile and other industries, I think this is good, but based on resources that are available in the kingdom, not to import the raw materials from outside. That's my opinion.
Well, on that note, then I think I'm looking at the clock. I think you're into the break now. I think well into the break. So,
Nikhil, can I make a last remark about the barriers very quick? Nikhil?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Just a very quick, two very quick remarks. When it comes about the barrier, we discuss about certification, but I think in the kingdom, we either have relatively small academic structures or huge processing facilities like the Aramco size and everything, but we don't have something in between that is, mid-sized technology transfer facilities in which academics and industry, they can work together. And if you look at Europe or the US, you have big facilities like this in which industries are coming to validate concept and academics can work on real scale system. So, and this is something that is really critical for training the workforce on all aspects of the value chain. So I think this is really something to think about. And the last point I wanted to add, the second remark was about but we should not limit ourselves to what I would call classical composites, because if we start to think about something from scratch, there are many evolutions that are coming about 3D printing in civil engineering, about multifunctional materials, about plenty of evolutions, and probably composites in 10 years from now are going to be very difficult from most of the composite that we discussed, but we are used to. And this is something that we need to include in the way we are training the workforce. There is a lot of multi-physics coming, a lot of multi-skills, mechanics, electrical engineering, physics. And this is something that we take into account to make sure that we train a successful generation of engineers in this field. This is my last remark, and then I shut up because
thank you, Gilles. I think I'll just make a few closing reflections, and then Wesley, I look to you also, then we can close the session out if you allow me. I think, Gilles, you kind of stole my last words, so I'll simply say that as I reflected on this entire panel session, a few things resonated in my mind. Having done this in the US for all these years, I would say clearly what you mentioned of having that intermediate scale facility is very important because it addresses that experience element. The experience of putting your hands and actually making a composite is quite different than flipping through pages of a textbook or learning a lecture in the classroom. The moment you start making your own composites, all of us know how many mistakes we can make and how we will learn over time. So I think having that facility where industry can come to practice, to learn, will be as important as the classroom sessions or the pedagogical ideas, the academic ideas around composites. I heard very loud and clear, for this to happen, industry must step up, industry and university must collaborate together. This is not a lone journey for one side to start or the other side to start. I think so maybe through SASCOM to see some action being taken about a national testing center or a industry user facility, or what you call a little bit of a pilot scale facility where things can be practiced. These would be something to look forward in the coming years to really see in action, to have a ribbon cutting opening ceremony and really having people visit and learn. This would be the best thing that could happen in the years to come. I think with that, I will close my thoughts. I really appreciate all your remarks, comments. It's never enough time. I hope it's a starting point to a discussion. And with that, over to you, Wesley, as you close out our session.
No, thank you very much. We're well over time. Thanks to everyone who participated. Great discussion.
It was our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We thank you for the interesting discussion.